The package was supposed to be left at the door, nothing more. But when Marcus looked through the window, he saw himself already inside, standing in the dark, staring back. There are deliveries that should never be made, addresses that exist on maps but shouldn't. And sometimes, the person who answers the door isn't the person who ordered. What you're about to hear are 3 true accounts from delivery drivers who encountered something that changed them forever. Something that made them question every darkened doorstep, every quiet street, every house that feels just a little too still. These stories were shared anonymously. The locations have been altered for privacy. But the fear, the absolute terror they felt, that part is completely real. Few people think about what delivery drivers see. The late shifts that stretch into the early morning hours, the isolated routes through neighborhoods where streetlights died years ago, the houses at the end of long, winding roads where the porch light never turns on, no matter how many times you ring the bell. Marcus Chen didn't think about it either. Not until his last delivery on November 14, 2023. The night that made him understand that some addresses aren't just locations. They're traps. Before we go further into the darkness, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because here at Forbidden Visions, every story leaves a different shadow on those who listen. And trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. Because once you hear it, you'll never forget it. Marcus had been delivering packages for 3 years. Same routes, same neighborhoods, same houses with the same barking dogs and broken motion lights. He knew which customers left detailed notes, which ones never answered the door, which houses had the spare key hidden under the mat. It was routine, autopilot, mind-numbing in its predictability. Until the night he got the ping for 4743 Hemlock Drive. The address showed up on his scanner at exactly 9:47 p.m. Late delivery, priority overnight, rush shipping paid extra. He'd driven past the entrance to Hemlock Drive 100 times over the years, maybe more, but he'd never actually been down it. The street was tucked behind a row of abandoned storage units, barely visible from the main road. Most drivers didn't even know it existed. The GPS guided him down a narrow path lined with overgrown oak trees. Their branches formed a canopy overhead, blocking out the sky. No streetlights, no house lights, just the pale glow of his headlights cutting through the absolute darkness. The road seemed to go on forever, longer than it should have. Marcus checked the GPS, 0.2 miles, but it felt like he'd been driving for 10 minutes. Finally, the house appeared, suddenly, like it had materialized out of the darkness. Set back from the road, single story, paint peeling in long, curling strips, windows dark except for one, a faint blue glow in what looked like the living room, the kind of light that comes from a television left on, flickering, irregular. Marcus grabbed the package from the passenger seat, standard cardboard box. Light, maybe a book, maybe clothing. Nothing unusual about it. The label was printed cleanly. Name, M. Chen, the same as his own name. Weird coincidence, but it happened sometimes. He stepped out of the truck. The air hit him immediately. Cold. Not just autumn cold. Wrong cold. The kind that settles deep in your chest and makes your breath catch. Makes your lungs feel like they're filled with ice water. The silence was absolute. No wind, no insects, no distant traffic. Just nothing. He walked up the driveway, gravel crunching under his boots. Each step seemed too loud, invasive, like he was disturbing something that had been sleeping. The porch was worse. The wood was rotted through in places, soft beneath his feet. He could feel it giving slightly with each step. The whole structure felt unstable, temporary, like it might collapse at any moment. The porch light was off. The bulb was there, he could see it, but it was dark. He pulled out his phone, using the flashlight to find the doorbell. That's when he noticed the doormat. It was new, pristine, completely out of place against the rotting wood of the porch and the general decay of the house. It read, "Come in, we've been waiting." Not "welcome," not "home sweet home," Not any of the cheerful generic phrases you see on doormats. "Come in, we've been waiting." Marcus felt something twist in his stomach. Most doormats were impersonal, mass-produced. This one felt targeted, personal, like it had been put there recently, for him specifically. He pressed the doorbell. No sound, either broken or not connected to anything. He knocked instead. 3 solid raps. The sound echoed inside the house. Hollow, empty. Silence. He waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Checked his phone. The delivery instructions were clear. Leave at door if no answer. Simple enough. Standard procedure. Marcus set the package down carefully, angling it against the door so it wouldn't blow away. He opened the delivery app, positioned his phone to take the required photo for proof of delivery. That's when he heard it. A door opening. Not the front door. Somewhere inside the house. Deep inside. Slow. Deliberate. The creak of old hinges that hadn't been oiled in years. Maybe decades. Then, footsteps. Heavy. Measured. Coming toward the front door. Marcus stopped, finger hovering over the camera button. He turned back toward the door. The front door was still closed. Locked. Exactly as it had been. But through the narrow frosted window beside it, he could see movement. A shadow. Tall. Impossibly thin. Moving with an unnatural stillness, like it was gliding rather than walking. Like its feet weren't quite touching the floor. The shadow stopped, right on the other side of the door, maybe 3 feet away from where Marcus stood. He could hear breathing. Slow. Ragged. Like someone who'd been running but was trying to stay quiet. Marcus felt his pulse spike. Adrenaline flooded his system. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. Just go. The package was delivered. Job done. Leave. But something made him look. Really look. Through the small frosted window, he could make out the outline of whoever, whatever, was standing there. The figure was facing the door, facing him. Completely still. And then, the figure raised its hand, slowly, deliberately, pressed it against the glass from the inside. The handprint spread across the frosted surface, but something was wrong with it. The fingers were too long, too thin, too many joints, like someone had taken a human hand and stretched it, pulled it until the proportions were all wrong. Marcus stumbled backward. His phone slipped from his hand, clattered onto the porch. The sound was deafening in the silence. The porch light flickered on, just for a second, maybe 2, and in that brief flash of sickly yellow light, Marcus saw the figure clearly through the window. It was him! Same delivery jacket with the company logo on the breast, same black baseball cap, same face. His face, staring back at him with eyes that were just slightly too wide, eyes that didn't blink, eyes that reflected the light like an animal's eyes in the dark. The thing that looked like him smiled, slowly, the corners of its mouth pulling upward in a way that wasn't quite right, too wide, too knowing. The light went out, plunged back into darkness. Marcus didn't think, didn't process. He grabbed his phone and ran, sprinted down the rotting porch steps, nearly falling. His feet hit the gravel driveway, and he didn't slow down, didn't look back, didn't stop until he was in his truck, engine roaring to life, tires spitting gravel as he tore down that dark, tree-lined road. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the steering wheel. His breath came in ragged gasps. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. He didn't slow down until he hit the main road, until he saw streetlights, other cars, signs of normal life. When he got home, he sat in his truck for 20 minutes, just breathing, just trying to convince himself it had been a trick of the light, a reflection, his mind playing tricks after a long shift. But then he checked the delivery app. The package had been marked as received, customer signature on file, Marcus Chen. But he never signed anything. He never even took the photo. He never opened that door. The signature was digital, scrawled on the screen in shaky handwriting that looked almost frantic, desperate, like whoever signed it was in a hurry, or scared Marcus zoomed in on the signature, and his blood ran cold. It was his signature. Exactly his signature. Every loop and curve, the way he crossed his T's, the way his C's tilted slightly to the left. Perfect. Too perfect. He called his supervisor the next morning, 8 a.m., as soon as the office opened, told him he was done with night deliveries. Effective immediately. Didn't explain why. Couldn't. How do you explain that you saw yourself standing inside a house you'd never entered? His supervisor tried to argue. Night deliveries paid more. Marcus was one of their best drivers. Marcus didn't care. He'd take the pay cut. He'd work double shifts during the day if he had to. Just no more night routes. No more dark roads. No more Hemlock Drive. 2 weeks later, Marcus got another ping for 4743 Hemlock Drive. Same address, same priority overnight designation, same name on the label. He stared at the screen for a full minute. His finger hovered over accept. The pay was triple the normal rate. The app marked it as urgent, high priority, bonus incentive. Marcus declined it, marked himself unavailable for the rest of the shift. And to this day, whenever he drives past that row of storage units, he keeps his eyes forward. Doesn't let them drift toward that dark path between the trees. Doesn't let himself wonder who's living in that house now. Or what's wearing his face. Or how many times it's answered the door. Sometimes, late at night when he can't sleep, Marcus wonders about that package. What was inside it? Who really ordered it? Why his name was on the label? And he wonders, if he'd opened that door when the thing on the other side knocked back, would he still be Marcus Chen? Or would he be the one inside, waiting for the next delivery? If you've ever felt watched while making a delivery, drop a comment below. Because what happened to Sarah Voss in December of 2022 might make you think twice about those quiet, safe-looking neighborhoods, the ones with Christmas lights and wreaths on the door. Sarah delivered groceries, the kind of service where you bring the bags right to the door, sometimes even inside if the customer is elderly or disabled. It was personal, intimate. You saw people's homes, their lives, their refrigerators and pantries. She liked the job, mostly. Good tips, flexible hours. She got to listen to true crime podcasts during her routes, which felt ironic now given what happened. December 18th started like any other shift, cold, overcast. The kind of gray winter day where the sun never really breaks through the clouds, where the whole world exists in this dim, twilight state from dawn to dusk. Sarah's last delivery of the day was at 6:14 p.m. Already dark. The address was in a neighborhood she'd been to before. Older homes, well-kept lawns, Christmas lights starting to appear on porches and in windows, inflatable Santas and light-up reindeer. Normal, familiar, safe. The house was 892 Pinewood Court, 2-story colonial, white with blue shutters. Wreath on the door made of real pine branches and red berries. A warm, welcoming light glowed in the front window. The order was large, 7 bags, 42 items, someone stocking up for the holidays. The customer had left a note in the app. Please bring inside. Front door unlocked. I have mobility issues and can't come to the door. Just leave everything on the kitchen counter. Thank you so much. Sarah had done this dozens of times. Hundreds, probably. Elderly customers, people with disabilities, people recovering from surgery. It was part of the job, part of the service. She loaded the bags onto her cart, wheeled it up the driveway. The house was quiet. No sound of a television or radio. No voices. She knocked first. Always knocked first. Even when the note said to come in. Hello? Grocery delivery. No answer. She tried again, louder. Hello? It's Sarah from Instamart. I have your groceries. Still nothing. Sarah tried the door. It opened easily, smoothly, well-oiled hinges. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of cinnamon. Cinnamon candles, maybe, or potpourri. And underneath it, something else, something faint, like old paper, or dust that had been sitting undisturbed for a long time. Hello? I'm coming in with your groceries. The The house remained silent. Sarah wheeled the cart inside, parking it in the entryway. The layout was typical. Stairs directly ahead leading to the second floor. Living room to the left, dining room to the right, kitchen presumably toward the back. The entryway was dim. A single lamp glowed in the living room. Warm yellow light that cast long shadows across the walls. Sarah grabbed the first 2 bags and headed toward the kitchen. Her footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. Too loud. Invasive. The kitchen was spotless. Immaculate. Not a dish out of place. Not a crumb on the counter. The kind of clean that takes hours to maintain. Sarah started unpacking. Organized the items by category. Cold things in the fridge. Frozen items in the freezer. Pantry goods on the counter. It was something she did for her regular customers. The elderly ones who appreciated the extra help. A small kindness that cost her nothing but a few extra minutes. That's when she noticed the photographs. They lined the hallway leading from the kitchen. Black and white. Old. Dated by the clothing and hairstyles to maybe the 1940s or 50s. Faces staring out from ornate silver frames. Family portraits. Wedding photos. Children in formal dress. But something was wrong with them. In every single photograph, the faces were blurred. Not like they'd moved during the shot. Not like the camera had shaken. Blurred intentionally. Deliberately. Like someone had taken a thumb and rubbed across each face. Smudged them out until the features were unrecognizable. Just dark, indistinct shapes where eyes and mouths and noses should be. Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. She told herself it was an artistic choice. Some kind of privacy thing. People did weird things with old photos. But it didn't feel artistic. It felt wrong. Violated. She finished unpacking quickly. Hands moving faster now. She just wanted to leave. Get back to her car. Move on. Except this was her last delivery. After this, she was going home. Sarah turned to leave. Started walking back toward the front door. And froze. Standing at the bottom of the stairs was a woman. Elderly. Very thin. Almost skeletal, wearing a faded blue nightgown that hung off her frame like a burial shroud. Her hair hung in long gray strands around her face, greasy and unkempt. She wasn't there before. Sarah was absolutely certain. She would have seen her, would have heard her come down the stairs. The woman just appeared. "Oh, you scared me," Sarah said, forcing a smile, trying to keep her voice light. Friendly, professional. "Your groceries are all set. I put the cold items in the fridge and the frozen things in the freezer. Everything else is on the counter." The woman didn't respond, didn't move, didn't blink. Just stood there at the base of the stairs, hands hanging at her sides, head tilted slightly to one side, watching. Sarah's smile faltered. Is everything okay? Do you need help with anything?" The woman's lips began to move. Slowly, deliberately, forming words without sound. Sarah took a step closer. "I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Are you all right?" The woman's mouth kept moving, silent, precise. The same words over and over. Sarah moved closer still, close enough to see the woman's eyes. They were clouded, milky, like cataracts. But there was something else, something underneath, some awareness, some intelligence. And then Sarah realized what the woman was saying, reading her lips. "Get out, get out, get out, get out." Over and over and over. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Her smile vanished. I'm going. I'm sorry if I startled you. I was just—" The woman's head snapped up, fast, unnatural, like a puppet jerked by strings. Her eyes locked onto Sarah's. They were white, completely white. No iris, no pupil, no color at all. Just empty, milky white that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. And her mouth, still moving, still forming those same 2 words. "Get out!" Sarah didn't think, didn't question. She ran, bolted for the front door, didn't grab her cart, didn't grab her phone from her pocket where it had fallen, didn't close the door behind her. She just ran, sprinted to her car, fumbled with the keys, dropped them, picked them up, finally got the door open and threw herself inside. Her hands shook so badly she could barely get the key in the ignition. She drove away without looking back, didn't slow down until she was 3 neighborhoods away, until she was surrounded by traffic and lights and normal people doing normal things. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. Tears streamed down her face, and she didn't know when she'd started crying. When she got home, she sat in her parked car for an hour, just breathing, just trying to process what she'd seen. It had to be a trick of the light. The woman was just sick, elderly, confused. The white eyes were cataracts. The blurred photos were just old, damaged by time. There was a rational explanation. There had to be. Sarah checked the delivery app. The order had been marked complete. 5-star rating. Customer comment posted 20 minutes ago. Thank you so much for bringing everything inside and organizing it. You're a lifesaver. You went above and beyond. We'll definitely request you again. But Sarah never finished unpacking those groceries. She'd run out halfway through. Someone else had finished the job. Or something else. The next day, Sarah called the company, asked them to remove 892 Pinewood Court from her eligible delivery addresses, told them she'd had an uncomfortable experience and preferred not to return. The supervisor asked for details. Sarah said she'd rather not elaborate. They didn't push. Customer service logged the request and moved on. 3 weeks later, Sarah was scrolling through local news during her lunch break. A headline caught her eye. Elderly woman found deceased in home after welfare check. She clicked the article. Read the first paragraph. The address? 892 Pinewood Court. The woman, identified as Margaret Whitmore, 87, had been discovered by concerned neighbors who hadn't seen her in over a week. No signs of foul play. Natural causes. Pending autopsy. Sarah's hands started shaking again. She kept reading. The woman had lived alone. No family, no regular visitors. Neighbors described her as reclusive, but polite. The estimated time of death, based on decomposition and environmental factors? December 16th, 2 days before Sarah delivered her groceries. 2 days before someone left that 5-star review. 2 days before someone finished unpacking those bags and organizing them in the kitchen. Sarah closed the article, deleted her browsing history, tried to forget, but she couldn't. Because she kept wondering, if Margaret Whitmore died on December 16th, who ordered those groceries? Who left that note in the app? Who wrote that review? And who, or what, was standing at the bottom of those stairs, warning her to leave? Sarah never went back to that neighborhood, and she never accepted another delivery with a note that said, "Come inside." Because now she knows, sometimes the person waiting for you isn't alive at all, and sometimes they're trying to save you from whoever is. Have you ever delivered to an address that didn't feel right? A place that seemed wrong the moment you arrived? Let me know in the comments. Because what happened to James Ruiz on March 3rd, 2024, might be the most disturbing delivery story ever told. James drove for a medical courier service, not packages from Amazon or food from restaurants, medical supplies, lab specimens, documents that couldn't be sent digitally due to HIPAA regulations, time-sensitive materials that couldn't wait for standard mail. It was good money, better than most delivery jobs, but it meant late hours, odd locations, sometimes rural routes where GPS barely worked and cell signal came and went. James didn't mind. He liked the solitude, the quiet roads, the podcast he could listen to without interruption. On the night of March 3rd, James got a last-minute pickup request, 11:47 p.m. A medical facility on the outskirts of town needed a package delivered to a private residence. Urgent, high priority, triple pay. The facility was one he'd been to before, a small clinic that did specialized work, genetic testing, rare disease diagnostics, things that required rush processing. James picked up the package. Small, light, maybe the size of a shoebox, wrapped in plain brown paper. The label was handwritten, not printed. Unusual, but it happened sometimes. The address was 1488 Crooked Lane. James had never heard of it. He'd been driving these routes for 2 years and thought he knew every street in the county. When he put it into his GPS, the route took him out past the town limits, past the last gas station with its flickering fluorescent sign, past the last streetlight, past the last indication of civilization. The GPS estimated arrival time, 34 minutes, for a straight-line distance of maybe 8 miles. The roads out here were bad, winding, poorly maintained. James settled in for the drive, turned up his podcast, some true crime show about unsolved disappearances in rural areas. Fitting! 5 minutes into the drive, the paved road turned to gravel. The smooth ride became rough, rocky. His van bounced and shook. 10 minutes in, the gravel turned to dirt, hard-packed, rutted, like it hadn't been maintained in years. 15 minutes in, his cell signal died. The podcast cut out mid-sentence. The GPS kept working, but the map looked strange. The blue line representing his route twisted and bent in impossible ways, looping back on itself, making turns that didn't match the actual road. 20 minutes in, the GPS recalculated, then recalculated again and again. The arrival time kept changing. 12 minutes, 8 minutes, 15 minutes, 3 minutes. Like it couldn't figure out where he was or where he was going. The trees grew thicker, closer to the road. Their branches hung low, scraping the top of his van as he drove. The sound was constant, persistent, like fingernails dragging across metal. 25 minutes in, James considered turning back. The road was barely visible now, just 2 faint tracks through overgrown grass and weeds. But the pay was triple rate, and he was already most of the way there. The GPS announced, arriving at destination in 500 feet. James slowed down, leaned forward, peering through the windshield into the darkness. And then he saw it, a house. If you could call it that. It was more like a structure, an assemblage, cobbled together from mismatched materials, old wood planks, corrugated metal sheets, pieces of what looked like other buildings, different colors, different textures, different ages. No symmetry, no architectural design, just built, like someone had been adding rooms and sections over decades, over a lifetime, without planning, without purpose. A single light burned in one of the windows, yellowish, flickering like a candle, or like electricity struggling through ancient corroded wiring. James parked his van, grabbed the package. It was light, almost weightless. He shook it gently. Nothing rattled, nothing shifted. He walked up to the structure. There was no driveway, no path, just dirt and dead grass leading right up to a warped wooden door. No porch, no steps. The door was flush with the ground. James knocked. 3 solid raps. The door shuddered under his knuckles, thin, hollow. Waited. Nothing? He knocked again, harder. The sound echoed inside, oddly, like the space beyond the door was much larger than the exterior suggested. Still nothing. The door swung open, not from someone opening it, not from his knock. It just opened, slowly, deliberately, like it had been waiting. Inside was dark, completely dark. The light he'd seen from outside wasn't visible from this angle. Maybe it was in a different room. Maybe it had gone out. "Hello, delivery!" His voice echoed, wrong, too long, too many reverberations, like he was shouting into a cave instead of a house. James hesitated. He was supposed to get a signature. Always. Medical deliveries required confirmation. Chain of custody. But no one was answering. He pulled out his phone, used the flashlight, shined it through the doorway. The beam illuminated a room. Bare walls, concrete floor, a single wooden table in the center, 2 chairs, nothing else, and covering every wall, pictures. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all facing inward, toward the center of the room, toward the table. James stepped inside, just one step, just to see if anyone was there, just to call out one more time. The smell hit him immediately, antiseptic, sharp, medicinal, like a hospital, like bleach and alcohol and disinfectant. But underneath it, something else, something organic, something rotting. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. He could make out more details now. The pictures on the walls weren't photographs of people or landscapes or families. They were pictures of doors, different styles, different colors, different materials, wood, metal, glass, all photographed from the same angle, from the outside, looking at the door straight on. Hundreds of doors, covering every inch of wall space. James felt his skin crawl. This was wrong. This whole place was wrong. He backed toward the exit. That's when he heard it. A voice. From deeper in the structure. Down a hallway he couldn't see. Through a doorway, hidden in shadow. Leave it on the table. The voice was flat, monotone. No emotion, no inflection, no humanity. James swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. I need a signature for the delivery. Silence. Long, heavy, oppressive. Then, again, exactly the same. Leave it on the table. The same words, the same tone, the same pitch, the same rhythm. Identical. Like a recording. Like someone pressing play on the same audio file. James's heart rate spiked. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. Drop the package. Run. Forget the signature. Forget the protocol. Just go. He set the package down on the table. Quickly. His hands were shaking. He turned to leave. The door was closed. He hadn't heard it close. Hadn't felt a draft. Hadn't heard hinges creak. It was just closed. James grabbed the handle. Pulled. It didn't move. He pulled harder. Twisted. Yanked with both hands. Locked. Stuck. Panic flooded his chest. His breathing quickened. Became ragged. Hello! I need to leave. The door's stuck. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Coming from the hallway. Getting closer. Steady. Rhythmic. Unhurried. Closer. 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 James pounded on the door. Let me out, please! The footsteps stopped. Right behind him. He could hear breathing. Feel it. Warm. Wet. On the back of his neck. He didn't want to turn around. Every cell in his body screamed at him not to look, but he couldn't help it. He turned. Standing in the hallway entrance was a figure, silhouetted against a light that shouldn't exist. That wasn't there a moment ago. Tall. Very tall. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. But the proportions were wrong. The arms too long, hanging almost to its knees. The legs too thin to support the torso. It didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even seem to breathe. It just watched. James couldn't see its face, just a silhouette, a shape, a presence. His hand found something on the door, a deadbolt. He didn't remember seeing it before. He twisted it, pulled. The door flew open. James ran, stumbled down the dirt path, nearly fell, caught himself, kept running. He didn't look back, didn't stop until he was in his van. Engine roaring, tires spinning in the dirt. He drove, fast, reckless, didn't care about the ruts or the branches scraping his van. He drove for 20 minutes before he realized he was shaking so badly he could barely hold the wheel. His breath came in gasps. His vision blurred. He pulled over, tried to breathe, tried to think. His phone buzzed. A notification from the courier app. Delivery confirmed. Package received. Thank you. But James never got a signature. He never saw anyone take the package. He never saw anyone at all. Just that figure, that shape, that thing standing in the darkness. The next morning, James called his supervisor, told them he was done, quitting, effective immediately. They asked why. He couldn't explain, didn't try. They offered him more money, better routes, daytime only. He said no. Some jobs aren't worth any amount of money. 2 days later, James got a call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Probably spam. Probably a telemarketer. But something made him pick up. Hello? Static. Thick. Heavy. Like the sound of emptiness. A void. And then a voice. Flat. Emotionless. Inhuman. Leave it on the table. James hung up immediately. Blocked the number. His hands were shaking again. The next day, another call. Different number. Same area code. He didn't answer. It went to voicemail. He played it back. Static. Then, leave it on the table. James blocked that number too. Over the next week, he got 17 calls. All different numbers. All the same message. He stopped answering unknown numbers entirely. But sometimes, late at night, when he's alone in his apartment, his phone rings. Unknown caller. He doesn't answer anymore, but he knows what he'd hear if he did. And sometimes, he wonders what that package contained. What medical specimen or document or material was so urgent that it needed to be delivered to that place, to that thing. And he wonders if he'd left a different package, or no package at all. Would the voice have said something else? Would the door have opened? Or would he still be there, in that room with 1,000 doors on the walls? Becoming just another photograph, just another delivery that never came back? They say some deliveries aren't meant to be made. Some addresses exist only for those who stumble onto them, who accept the wrong route, who take the job no one else wanted. And some doors should never be opened, because once you step through, once you cross that threshold, you become part of the delivery. You become what's waiting inside. Marcus never drove down Hemlock Drive again. He sees that street name sometimes on his scanner, on his route list. He always declines it, always marks it unavailable, even when the pay is quadruple, even when his supervisor calls and asks why. He doesn't explain. He just says no. Sarah avoids houses with blurred photographs now. She looks at them through windows before she enters. If she sees picture frames on the walls, she studies them. Makes sure the faces are visible. Makes sure they're normal. If they're not, she leaves the groceries on the porch, marks it as delivered, doesn't go inside, no matter what the note says. And James? James doesn't deliver anything anymore. He got a different job. Daytime, office work, normal hours, normal people. He threw away the phone that kept getting those calls. Got a new number, new carrier, new device. The calls stopped, but sometimes, when he passes a medical clinic or sees a courier van, he feels it, that cold twist in his stomach, that certainty that somewhere, someone is getting a package. And somewhere, that voice is saying, leave it on the table. Because these three drivers learned something that most people never do. Some jobs ask you to go places you shouldn't go, deliver packages to recipients who shouldn't exist, cross thresholds that should remain locked. And sometimes, you're not delivering a package at all. You're delivering yourself to whatever is waiting on the other side. To this day, none of them talk about what they saw, not in detail, not to anyone who wasn't there. Because how do you explain something that doesn't make sense, that violates every law of reality you've ever known? You don't. You just keep driving, keep delivering, keep pretending that everything is normal. But at night, when the roads are empty and the streetlights flicker, they still feel it. That presence, that wrongness, that certainty that something is watching from the darkness between houses, waiting, always waiting, for the next delivery. Marcus still drives at night sometimes, when he needs the extra money, when he has no choice. But he's learned to recognize the signs now. The addresses that don't quite fit, the neighborhoods that appear on the GPS but not on any map, the houses that seem too far back from the road, too isolated, too quiet. When he sees those addresses, he declines them. Every time, no matter how much they pay. Sarah still delivers groceries, still brings them inside for elderly customers. But now she calls out louder, waits longer for a response. And if something feels wrong, if the air feels too cold or too still, or if she sees pictures on the walls with faces that aren't quite right, she leaves. She doesn't care about the rating, doesn't care about the tip. She just leaves. Because being alive is worth more than 5 stars. And James learned the hardest lesson of all, that some packages aren't meant to be delivered, that some recipients aren't human, that some places exist outside the normal flow of reality, waiting for someone to stumble in. He thinks about that structure sometimes. That impossible building made of mismatched parts, those walls covered in photographs of doors. And he wonders, were those pictures of doors the thing had used before? Doors it had waited behind? Doors other delivery drivers had opened? Was each photograph a trophy? A memory? A record of everyone who'd made that mistake? He'll never know. And he's grateful for that. Because some questions are better left unanswered. Some mysteries should stay unsolved. Some doors should remain closed. 3 drivers, 3 deliveries, 3 encounters with something that shouldn't exist. But they did exist. They happened. And somewhere out there, right now, another driver is getting a ping. An address they've never seen before. An order marked urgent, high priority, triple pay. And they're thinking, why not? It's good money. It's just one delivery. They're pulling up to a house at the end of a dark road. They're walking up to a door that's already opening. They're hearing a voice from the darkness inside. And they're about to learn what Marcus and Sarah and James learned. That some deliveries you don't come back from. If this story made you look over your shoulder, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Forbidden Visions, the fear always comes back when you least expect it. And if you've ever had a delivery experience that felt wrong, something you can't explain, something that made you question what you saw, drop a comment below. You're not alone. There are thousands of drivers out there making deliveries every day, every night, to addresses that shouldn't exist. And some of them never make it back. The roads are long, the nights are dark, the houses are waiting. And something is always watching from the window, always waiting at the door, always ready to receive the next delivery. So the next time you order something online, the next time you schedule a delivery, the next time you hear a knock at your door late at night, remember, the person on the other side might not be making a delivery. They might be the delivery, and whatever ordered them is already inside, waiting to be received.